And this is where some of those mass extinctions are highly informative, right? We go back to the Devonian extinction, which is when, for a billion years, right, all biological life was in the ocean. And then all of a sudden, things start coming out of the sea, right? What's up with that, right? Crazy fish, right? We're leaving the ocean. And actually, it was a historical figure named Tiktaalik. The first tetrapod leaves the ocean. You know, little lunchbox, mom saying goodbye, you know. And this fellow here was the only one that left the ocean. I mean, insects left, some animals, some plant life left. He was the only one. Of the remainder, 75% of sea life went extinct in the Devonian extinction. So 3/4 of biological life went extinct. That one guy or one lady came out of the ocean. All four-footeds, all reptiles, mammals, birds, and us descend from that one visionary.
The others that stay there turn into sea life.
The other 75% who stayed behind died, went extinct. So this was he was the fruit, or she was the fruit. This being was the fruit of the Devonian extinction. So a huge, massive extinction. At that time, 3/4 of ocean life died. I mean, it's so easy to throw those numbers around.
Why did they die?
They don't entirely understand. Probably a lot of volcanic activity, possibly a meteorite strike. They're still arguing about what caused that. But I think possibly massive, massive volcanoes in Siberia and Russia created huge amounts of fossil, carbon in the air, which caused glacial great cooling. That then triggered other secondary effects that made the cooling even worse. And so things just died. They froze to death. Couldn't get it up somehow. But this guy came out. Or this gal came out.
I think it's a she. Maybe it's both.
Well, it pretty much had to be. It had to have a mate, or there wasn't going to be more of them. Who knows? Who knows? So there's an example. So the idea of getting your oxygen.
She came out pregnant.
Getting oxygen could well be. But this idea of getting, which we take it for granted, where do you get your oxygen? Out of the atmosphere. We don't even think about it. But up to this point, for a billion years, nobody thought about it. In fact, it was equivalent to death. And if you start thinking about some of the upsides of getting your oxygen out of the atmosphere, for one thing, it's much easier. It's a lot less work on the body. If you look at the consciousness of most seagoing creatures, except for octopuses and squids, they're pretty much
dolphins.
But they are air breathers.
Oh.
They're mammals.
So in other words, it takes so much effort, such a huge percentage of your resources have to be used extracting oxygen from water. There's not a lot left for fun and leisure. Yeah.
I'm not sure I got that. Could you show that again?
Now I have to give, my kid's mom, Tracy, was able to go in front of the fish tank with the food and get the fish to kind of get animated. But that's kind of the exception that proves the rule. So a huge leap. Again, it was equivalent to death. It was like death for everybody, but the one person who could swing it, the one being who could swing it, transformed life and had huge impacts down the road. So that's one example. Another example, got to get these fire explosions in, was the meteorite strike 66 million years ago. This is the Gulf of Mexico on what otherwise I'm sure was a beautiful sunny day, and then all of a sudden, just wrecks your whole vacation. And blam, kicks up dust. There's nuclear winter for 10 years, which basically means a frost every month of the year for the 10 years. And 75% of all plant and animal species go extinct. Nothing bigger than a house cat survives that. Not the impact of this, but 10 years of frost every month. So, and at that point, remember who was running it? You were like 2 seconds before that hit, and you were a betting individual. And you're looking at the planet, and it's been the age of the gigantic thunder lizards for 200 million years. And then there are these little tiny, you barely noticeable mammals that are basically flavor bites for velociraptors, and you're a betting person. You want to say, who's going to be running the planet in 100 million years? I mean, why even waste your money, right? It's so obvious. But disastrous change of circumstances, all of a sudden being cold-blooded and requiring huge inputs of greens and meat, is a huge liability. And if you're warm-blooded and don't need to eat much, you've got what it takes. And suddenly we shift from the age of the reptile to the age of the mammal, right? And the key thing about mammals, right? Reptiles, cold-blooded, they can't regulate their own temperature. They're totally vulnerable and dependent on the exterior heat. And they also don't care at all about their young. They lay their eggs and they're gone. The mammal, and this is key. Where does that word come from?
Mother.
Mammary. Mammary. Now again, on the less evolved mammals, there are mammaries all down the front. But once you get to great apes and human beings, where do they put those babies?
Up here.
Right over your heart. Now, you know, God being who he, she, it is. I mean, those things could be on your head, butt, on your knees, but they're put over the heart, people, right? Inside. So it's like, I mean, you could see evolution as an intelligent design. This cookie crumb trail is like, and if you come from the heart and you take care of your young and you love your young, you can actually field a much more advanced species that ultimately runs the whole planet. So this is a huge, huge transformation. Up to this point, you just laid an egg and left it. This is a radical concept. Try to get a reptile. You really should take care of your little ones. You know, you couldn't, not going to even register.
Ananda, the word mammal comes from the word mother. The word mother came first.
Very nice. Okay, but mammaries. So mammaries means mother-like or mothering.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think but specifically, I mean, I agree that that's the root. But I think from a scientific point of view, it means that what distinguishes mammals is they have mammaries.
Yes,
And then we look at the placement thereof and we draw some conclusions from that. So then another example of this paradigm shift, you've all heard me talk about butterflies and caterpillars. We're not going to go into a lot of detail, but the thing to think about is, let's just look at the world here, right? One of the earliest examples of a multicellular organism, and it does one thing and one thing very, very well. It eats and eats and eats and eats and eats. And it doesn't really care what's going on. And eventually, it'll eat the entire forest that it's living in and destroy it if it's able to. And it basically, its purpose is it comes out of the egg and eats and grows 700 times in size. I mean, imagine if we did that, right? We'd be weighing in about 5,600, 6,000 pounds each, right? It's terrifying. And then it melts down. Cataclysm for the butterfly, for the caterpillar. Very, very scary. And then suddenly, I mean, talk about a transformation. So this has a totally different role in the ecosystem. This is just a relentless consumer. This is the most rare type of organism. It's pollinator. Its need for food, which are very, very light demand, makes all of their life possible by pollinating. And plus, it gets a much sweeter ride. And that guy's got to walk all the time. He's kind of creepy looking. And here you get to fly. You're beautiful looking. I mean, it's like, holy moly, right? But how much communication could you have between those two incarnations, right? Caterpillars, you can't talk to caterpillars about butterflies. So finally, just one last example of what a paradigm shift or quantum leap looks like. Fire. Human beings, this is really what makes us human beings, is fire. About 200,000 years ago, give or take, in Africa, human beings figured out how to harness fire. And basically, it's such a complex being, fire, and how you use it properly, and how you avoid getting out of hand and burning you to death, and how you overcome your fears of fire. Because remember, when our ancestors first encountered fire, it would have been the shape of forest fires and savanna fires that terrified even the apex predators, right? I mean, in the forest, with the face of a forest fire, elephants, lions, they're all running, shitting themselves to get away from it. It's like, you don't want to be anywhere near that. So they did, hey, let's bring that in the house and use it, that took some conversations. So you had language, first humans, and this really sets us apart. This is where the real division begins. This is how suddenly we're on one side of a divide and everybody else is on the other side of the divide. I mean, Coco the gorilla knows 400 different words. I don't think they taught her how to use fire. Animals can't do it. Yeah.
One quick thing, again, I'm putting for women because women were the culture bringers in the old days. Women were the first to take fire and make it into a community thing.
I think it's quite possible, absolutely.
They took it. They took it in their vagina. Is what the myth goes. They go to a forest fire, take a stick or take a leaf, bring the fire out, stick it in here. That's the myth. Take it back and they create a hearth, which is the hearth. And then they create a group of women to guard the hearth. And that's the first.
Absolutely. No. The role of women in all of this is immense, and we're in this little tiny historical blip where men have tried to airbrush women out, but it's a very strange, anomalous period.
Yeah, so this picture could just as easily show two women.
Those could be two women. We have no idea.
Showing a daughter.
We don't really know what sex they are at all. It's unclear. So, and again, what I'm really interested in is what are the common features of evolutionary leaps and paradigm shifts? Because the bottom line is we have to make one now, right? There's no longer time to keep debating, discussing. We have to make the leap. But how will we know what it looks like? One way to identify it is to look at what the common features of previous evolutionary leaps and paradigm shifts are. First and foremost, right, it's almost impossible to communicate the new level to the old level, or for the old level to comprehend or even see the new level, right? I mean, you can't talk to fish about getting their oxygen out of the atmosphere. You can't talk to caterpillars about butterflies. You can't talk to mammals about why fire is such a good idea. Although dogs and cats obviously trust us to work with it for them. But this is the first problem, right? We're living, we're stuck, we're entrenched in this 5,000-year-old paradigm. How are we going to recognize what the new one looks like? Then the next problem, making it even worse, to the extent that the old level is able to perceive the new level, the old level will see the new model as absurd, dangerous, or even deadly. I mean, you know that our ancestors fought and perhaps died over whether it was a good idea to work with fire or not. And we know who we're descended from, right? Because the other ones didn't have descendants that lasted.
Now we have guns to kill off the new paradigm.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so this is, it's scary. You're going to get a very hostile reaction to the new paradigm. And then finally, just the icing on the cake, the move to the next level is always preceded by disaster or at best terrible and terrifying circumstances as perceived by the old level. So there you go.